Jaeger remarks that it is undeniably worth hurrying and assures his companion that they will be able to sleep comfortably inside the sturdy walls that night. Riding beside him is a heavy carriage, and Joseph sits inside it. He looks out the window with a thoughtful expression and says that it has indeed been a long time since he last sets foot there. As Joseph's sharp eyes scan the massive defensive walls of Dharm, they suddenly stop on a flag proudly waving in the cold wind. The flag carries Vlad's unique crest. Surprised by the sight, Joseph points out that he specifically orders Vlad to serve as Lady Alicia's knight, so he finds it unexpected that Vlad arrives there before him. Jaeger takes a closer look at the banner and notices that Vlad has gained yet another crest since they last see him. A slow smile appears on Joseph's face as he replies that he is truly looking forward to what comes next because he wants to see for himself how sharp his master's sword has become. Some time later, a quiet atmosphere fills the room as Joseph sits with Vlad and Jaeger while enjoying a warm cup of tea. Breaking the silence, Joseph asks if it has been about half a year since they last sit together like that. Vlad quietly confirms that it has, and Joseph agrees. However, Joseph's tone quickly changes because he has many things to discuss. He decides to ask the most important question first. He places his teacup on its saucer with an annoyed thump and demands to know why Vlad always causes huge trouble every time he comes there. Joseph angrily points out that Vlad even goes so far as to completely destroy the sacred and irreplaceable heirloom of the Hainel family. Vlad immediately lowers his head and quietly apologizes. Jaeger stands nearby, clearly filled with anger over Vlad's reckless actions. Joseph then turns to Jaeger and honestly asks what he thinks about the whole situation, wondering if something so unbelievable is even possible. Filled with shame, Jaeger lowers his head and admits that he feels deeply embarrassed for failing to properly teach and discipline his student. He turns toward Vlad with burning anger and harshly scolds him, demanding to know what is wrong with him. Jaeger stresses that even after traveling all the way to the eastern edge of the continent, Vlad has not changed or matured even a little. Joseph makes the situation even worse by admitting that he has no idea how to comfort Lady Alicia because she seems deeply shocked after losing her family crest. Vlad lowers his head once again, sincerely apologizes, and admits that he has absolutely no excuse for what he does. Jaeger becomes even angrier because of Vlad's calm attitude. Losing his temper completely, he calls Vlad an idiot and throws a powerful kick toward Vlad's leg. However, Vlad casually lifts his foot and effortlessly avoids the kick as though it is nothing, leaving Jaeger completely frozen in disbelief. Joseph is equally shocked by how easily Vlad avoids what should have been a direct hit. Breaking the awkward silence, Vlad calmly asks if he is actually supposed to take that hit. A confused Jaeger stammers that he supposes so, and Vlad casually invites him to try again. This time, Jaeger completely skips the kick and instead lands a solid punch directly on top of Vlad's head while shouting that Vlad completely ruins the dramatic mood and calling him a complete fool. Jaeger lets out a long, heavy sigh. After a brief silence, Vlad softly says that he is finally back. Looking at his student with both pride and relief, Jaeger's harsh expression softens as he replies that Vlad is indeed back and warmly welcomes him home. The master and student share a touching moment together while Joseph watches from the side with a satisfied smile. The scene then shifts to Alicia's private room. She lies on her bed, unable to stop thinking about Vlad's unbelievable boldness. She wonders how he can possibly smash the priceless heirloom into pieces simply because she gives it to him. She bitterly reminds herself that it is a precious gift left to her by her late father. As her anger slowly fades, Alicia forces herself to calm down. She reasons that everything is ultimately fine because she gives Vlad the amber to use in battle anyway, and Vlad clearly says that he manages to return alive only because of that amber. Her eyes then move toward the mysterious letter given to her by the elves, making her realize that Vlad does not only break things during his journey. She carefully picks up the document and thinks about how important it truly is. She realizes that the letter from the elven forest of Ushrina may be worth far more than the entire Hainel family heirloom. After all, it is a personal letter written directly by the mysterious elves, a race that never allows humans anywhere near their homeland. Alicia realizes that if House Hainel uses this extraordinary letter to establish formal diplomatic relations with the elves, the family's political power and influence could increase beyond imagination. Filled with curiosity and ambition, she carefully breaks the wax seal and unfolds the letter. The moment it opens, a brilliant light bursts out and fills the room with a dense stream of pure mana. Alicia gasps in amazement, saying that it feels as though she suddenly steps into the heart of a fresh and untouched forest. Before she fully understands the magical energy around her, a gentle breeze suddenly blows through her hair. Startled, she wonders where the wind comes from because her window is tightly shut. Looking outside across the estate, she notices Vlad standing on the small grassy hill nearby. Alicia lets out a dry laugh and mutters that Vlad really comes and goes as though he owns the entire place. On the moonlit hill, Vlad goes to visit the ancient white snake spirit. He gently strokes her massive head and quietly says that it has been a long time. The great snake turns her intelligent eyes toward the new sword hanging at Vlad's waist and immediately senses its magical power. Vlad notices her interest and casually explains that the sword is specially forged for him by the elves. Suddenly, tiny glowing spirits from the world tree begin floating out of the blade. Vlad stares at them in complete amazement and immediately remembers that the last time he sees these tiny spirits is when he speaks with the legendary blacksmith who forges his weapon. He realizes why he cannot sense them afterward and asks if they have been quietly living inside his sword all this time. The white snake leans closer to observe the tiny spirits, but they become frightened and quickly hide behind Vlad. Seeing how scared they are, the giant snake softens her expression and gives them a gentle smile. Realizing that the great snake has no intention of harming them, the spirits quickly lose their fear. They fly happily through the air and begin playing around the white snake. Back in her bedroom, Alicia watches Vlad from her distant window. She notices strange glowing lights dancing around him and quietly says that there should not be any fireflies on that hill at that time of year, completely unaware that she is actually watching ancient nature spirits that ordinary people cannot see. Alicia continues watching Vlad for a little longer before softly sighing and deciding that she will forgive his mistakes just this once. The following morning, deep inside the busy Bayezid temporary garrison in Dharm territory, Vlad, Joseph, and Jaeger walk side by side through rows of military tents and marching soldiers. Joseph looks at Vlad and informs him that Lady Alicia agrees to quietly overlook the heirloom incident, warning him that he should be deeply grateful to the Baroness. Vlad humbly nods in agreement. Joseph then gives him new orders. Starting that day, Vlad no longer serves under Joseph's direct military command. Instead, he officially becomes Lady Alicia's personal knight. Vlad pauses and asks for the reason behind the sudden change. Joseph plainly explains that the Vatican's powerful forces are now heavily stationed in the heart of the north, and Bishop Pierre still strongly suspects Vlad's true identity and intentions. Because of such dangerous circumstances, Joseph says that taking extra precautions is absolutely necessary. Vlad asks how long this arrangement will last, making Joseph look at him with a raised eyebrow. Joseph asks if Vlad is unhappy about serving as Lady Alicia's knight. Vlad quickly explains that it is not because he dislikes the role. He says that he simply prefers the title Vlad of Sora because that name represents his true home and origin. Joseph looks at the young warrior and thinks about his words. He realizes that Vlad's feelings make perfect sense because a knight's title is much more than a grand name. It is a sacred symbol that shows both a warrior's loyalty and their true identity. Joseph then advises Vlad that even so, he should become at least a little attached to his new title. He reminds him that although Lady Alicia promises to deal with the broken heirloom quietly without creating a public scandal, she never says that she will completely forgive what happened. After all, the amber is a legendary heirloom that has been passed down for generations and originally belongs to the respected ancestor who founded House Hainel. Joseph firmly states that no matter how much Vlad helps the Dharm territory, he still has to take responsibility for destroying the amber. Vlad accepts the heavy words and quietly says that he understands completely. Joseph then changes the subject and asks whether Vlad's horse is still doing well. Vlad asks if he means Noir. Joseph laughs and confirms that he is talking about Vlad's famous unruly horse, which is well known for refusing to obey anyone. Vlad smiles and says that Noir is doing very well. However, he adds that the horse has been restless lately because it has not had the chance to run freely across open land. Joseph smiles widely and says that this is excellent news. He explains that most of the soldiers stationed in the garrison are assigned only to defend the castle. However, he points out that simply waiting for the enemy to attack would be a terrible strategy. Because of that, he reveals that he has prepared a special battlefield where Noir and his master can run completely wild. Vlad looks at Joseph in surprise. A short time later, Joseph leads everyone toward a large round tent standing on the staging ground. Vlad stares at it and says that its design is completely unfamiliar and unlike any military tent he has ever seen. Before anyone can answer, a familiar confident voice comes from inside the tent. The voice remarks that they should look at who has finally decided to appear and says that it has been a long time. The entrance opens, revealing Aggie. Vlad freezes in shock and asks what Aggie is doing in a military camp. Joseph steps forward with a calm smile and explains that this arrangement has been written into their mercenary contract from the very beginning. He then tells everyone that although they already know each other well, they should still greet each other properly. Joseph officially introduces Aggie's group as the new brothers-in-arms whom Vlad is going to lead into battle from now on. Vlad's eyes grow wide with disbelief as he asks what Joseph means by moving together and what he means by calling them comrades. Aggie grins widely, stands up, walks straight to Vlad, and holds out his hand for a firm handshake. He excitedly says that they are about to go on an amazing rampage together under their strike force commander. Vlad stands there looking clearly unhappy about suddenly becoming responsible for everyone. Stefan, however, is full of excitement. He eagerly reminds Vlad that even gaining a single promotion in this army is a huge life-changing achievement. He also asks if Vlad remembers saying earlier that this is his first time joining a full-scale war as an official knight. Vlad barely looks at him and simply confirms that he did say that. Stefan refuses to calm down and insists that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He points out that Vlad has been placed in command of an entire unit immediately. It is not an ordinary scouting unit but an elite strike force with a highly specialized role. Vlad looks at him with a blank expression and comments that Stefan seems far too excited about everything. Stefan proudly puffs out his chest and boasts that he is promoted to the prestigious position of adjutant as soon as he is hired. Around him, his loyal mercenaries loudly cheer for him. They proudly shout that their boss has worked incredibly hard for this moment and that it finally looks like they are going to settle down and build a real reputation. While Stefan continues showing off and enjoying the praise of his men, Vlad rubs his temples and thinks that this entire situation is becoming a terrible headache. Deep down, he knows that the stubborn Budhat tribe probably will not listen to anything he says. He quickly realizes that this situation is completely different from the lawless street fights of his past. Here, if these men ignore orders and break formation, the entire strike force could be placed in serious danger and the whole mission could fail. He thinks as hard as he can while staring into the distance, desperately searching for a reliable way to control these unruly warriors before they even leave for battle. At that moment, Aggie walks over with a confident swagger and loudly asks why Vlad is sighing so much. Aggie says that if Vlad does not want to be captain, then he should hand the position over immediately. Aggie steps closer and warns him that things are very different now. He proudly declares that the Budhat tribe is officially led by the Child of the Plains and that this is the absolute law of the plains. As soon as the surrounding barbarians hear this bold statement, they burst into loud laughter and openly mock Vlad and his weak-looking authority. Vlad silently watches Aggie without even blinking and lets the laughter continue around him. However, the hardened mercenaries nearby do not appreciate Aggie's disrespect toward their newly appointed leader. Stefan immediately steps forward, folds his arms, and sarcastically calls Aggie Mr. Child of the Plains. He firmly declares that they only obey the orders of their true employer. He proudly states that the Thorn Mercenary Company follows Lord Vlad and no one else. Aggie looks down at the mercenaries with contempt and says that there is no other choice. He declares that they will follow a law that works everywhere. Whether on the open plains or inside heavily defended cities, everyone follows strength because, in this harsh world, the winner takes everything. After a brief silence, Vlad lets out a quiet laugh. He realizes that he needs to reflect on himself because he has once again become so focused on a righteous knight's honor that he has forgotten his own rough street fighting route. A cold and serious expression appears on his face as he says that the answer has been standing right in front of him the whole time. Meanwhile, far away from the growing tension in the courtyard, Alicia slowly walks through a quiet stone hallway beside Joseph. She nervously asks whether Vlad can really handle such a dangerous group of men. Twisting her hands together, she worries that it may still be too early for someone as young as Sir Vlad to carry such a heavy responsibility. She suggests that perhaps he should spend more time learning beside the older and more experienced knights first. Joseph calmly assures her that Vlad will be perfectly fine. He says with quiet admiration that from the moment they first meet, Sir Vlad naturally behaves like the leader of a group. Alicia remains worried despite his reassurance. She points out that these are all rough and unpredictable men, and that giving a newly knighted young man direct command over fierce barbarians and experienced bloodthirsty mercenaries is asking far too much. Joseph agrees that her concern is reasonable, but he strongly says that Sir Vlad has already proven himself enough that no one needs to doubt his abilities anymore. He admits that violent barbarians who refuse to obey anyone and clever, heavily armed mercenaries with years of brutal experience are certainly difficult people for a knight who is not even 20 years old to control. Even so, he gently tells Alicia not to worry too much because when it comes to being rough and completely ruthless, Sir Vlad is no easy opponent either. The two nobles stop beside a large glass window and look down into the dusty courtyard below. There they see Vlad and Aggie standing face to face as they prepare to fight. Around them, a huge crowd of heavily armed men surrounds the two fighters while shouting loudly. The barbarians wildly cheer for Aggie and stomp their feet, while the mercenaries cheer just as loudly for Vlad. The crowd keeps shouting at the Knight of Dharm, telling him to hit as hard as he can, give everything he has, show the barbarian his true strength, and give him the beating he deserves. Both fighters remove their shirts, revealing their heavily scarred and powerfully muscular bodies to the crowd. Aggie spreads his huge arms wide in a proud and arrogant display of confidence and shouts for Vlad to come at him. Vlad is just as muscular, with every muscle in his body tense and ready. As he casually stretches his neck and shoulders, he says with a cold smile that the fight is going to be fun and warns Aggie that there is no turning back now. Staring at Aggie with a cold and frightening look that cuts through the noise of the crowd, Vlad tells him to raise his right hand if he thinks he is going to die from the beating he is about to receive. The terrifying emptiness in Vlad's eyes shocks Aggie, sending a chill down his spine. He briefly wonders what is wrong with that murderous look and realizes that only about 6 months have passed since they last meet. Even so, Vlad now seems like a completely different person. At the same time, Vlad smoothly moves into a perfect MMA fighting stance, lightly bouncing on his feet. Aggie forces himself to ignore his fear and takes a strong defensive position. However, in the blink of an eye, Vlad closes the large distance between them. He throws a powerful punch straight toward Aggie's unprotected stomach. Aggie barely lowers his arms in time to block the attack, but he clearly feels the crushing force shaking his bones through his forearms. Right after the blocked punch, Vlad pretends to launch a lightning-fast high kick toward the side of Aggie's head. Seeing the movement, Aggie quickly raises his guard and confidently shouts that the attack is coming from above and that he finally has Vlad trapped. But it is only a carefully planned fake. In the middle of the movement, Vlad suddenly changes direction and brutally strikes Aggie's exposed leg, badly damaging the muscles while showing a mocking smile. Vlad taunts him by saying that he should have kept his eyes open. Angry and embarrassed by the trick, Aggie shouts that Vlad should stop using cheap tricks. He then recklessly charges forward and grabs Vlad tightly around the waist in a powerful tackle. Vlad stays completely calm. He simply moves his right leg back for balance, drives a devastating knee into Aggie's stomach, and throws the giant man onto the ground like an experienced mixed martial arts fighter. Aggie struggles to breathe but desperately gets back onto his feet, refusing to stay down. Before he can recover, Vlad rushes forward again at incredible speed and lands another crushing punch directly into the middle of Aggie's stomach. The terrible pain nearly makes Aggie lose consciousness, but he bites his own lip until it bleeds just to endure it. Using only desperate adrenaline, he swings his huge left fist wildly toward Vlad's head in one final attempt. Vlad easily ducks beneath the slow and predictable punch, slips smoothly behind Aggie, and prepares his next attack. Aggie has no time at all to turn around or defend himself before Vlad slams a massive blow into his exposed side. The overwhelming impact knocks all the air out of his lungs, and he collapses onto his knees, completely unable to fight. Vlad stands behind him, giving off a terrifying aura that makes the entire courtyard fall silent. He calmly says that he has been holding back because they still have an important and dangerous mission ahead. However, he darkly adds that if Aggie truly wants to continue, he can start fighting seriously and finish everything permanently. Aggie painfully turns his head while gasping for breath and suddenly remembers exactly who Vlad is. The truth strikes him hard. Vlad is the legendary dragon slayer who defeated and killed Lindworm. Completely defeated and stripped of all his pride, Aggie lowers his head and quietly admits that he has lost. Vlad coldly asks if he is completely sure. Aggie weakly nods while staring at the ground and repeats more loudly that he has truly lost. As Vlad turns around and begins walking away, he warns Aggie never to bark in front of him again because from this moment onward, he alone leads the warriors of the Budhat tribe. The mercenaries burst into loud cheers for Vlad's overwhelming victory, while the shocked barbarians stand silently, unable to decide what to do next. Still holding his badly bruised side, Aggie hoarsely calls for Vlad to wait a moment. Vlad stops walking and asks in an annoyed voice what is wrong now, wondering if Aggie wants to settle the matter with real swords this time. Aggie quickly waves his hands in panic and nervously denies that idea. He immediately agrees that Vlad can without question become the captain of the team. Vlad raises an eyebrow and asks what the condition is, already sensing that one is coming. Aggie glares angrily at Stefan and boldly declares that he fully accepts Vlad as captain but refuses to accept Stefan as the adjutant. He explains that because he loses fairly in combat, he will honorably obey Vlad's orders from now on. Vlad immediately realizes that Aggie simply refuses to give up the respected second-in-command position to a mercenary. Aggie loudly agrees and angrily shouts that Stefan is not even from the north and does not deserve to lead the northern tribesmen. Vlad turns towards Stefan and casually asks what he thinks about this sudden challenge to his position. Stefan lets out a deep sigh, rubs his face in exhaustion, and mutters that the entire situation is driving him completely crazy. Meanwhile, the other mercenaries eagerly pat Stefan on the back and loudly encourage him for the fight that is about to happen. By sunset, as the sky turns deep orange and red, the three battered men enter Joseph's quiet office. Seeing their condition, Joseph calmly says that the leadership order finally seems to be settled. Both Aggie and Stefan are covered with bruises and fresh cut. Aggie looks especially satisfied because he has managed to defeat Stefan in their brutal fight. Joseph then turns to Stefan and explains that he has personally reviewed all the past mission records and battle reports of the Thorn Mercenary Company. He says that Stefan's past performance and tactical decisions are so excellent that he could easily have built a much larger and more famous mercenary company if he had received proper financial support. Joseph assures him that even though he has officially lost his position as the team's adjutant, his great experience in battle will still be extremely valuable to the strike team. He advises Stefan to work closely with Sir Vlad and use this difficult mission to prove himself on a much greater stage. Joseph promises that if Stefan truly proves his worth on the battlefield, Lord Bayezid himself will become his new wealthy sponsor. Completely surprised by the unexpected offer, Stefan's eyes widen, and he eagerly promises that he will do everything he can to help Vlad from now on. Joseph then turns his serious attention to Aggie and strictly explains that the strike team must secretly operate behind enemy lines, so the group cannot be too large. He orders Aggie to carefully choose only the 9 strongest and most skilled warriors from his tribe to join the mission. Aggie respectfully bows his head and says that he understands, fully accepting the order. He starts to say something more, perhaps to argue, but the moment he notices Vlad's silent and furious warning glare from the corner of his eye, he quickly swallows his words and wisely stays quiet. Finally, Joseph formally speaks to Vlad. He orders him to make sure the team secretly enters enemy territory, but at the same time, he must also make sure that the strike team's terrifying existence eventually becomes widely known among the enemy. Joseph calmly explains that leaving a few terrified survivors alive after each raid is one effective way to spread frightening rumors. Once those rumors spread everywhere, he warns that the Western lords will chase them with all their strength. Because of this, Joseph seriously tells Vlad that during the most dangerous moments, he must always place the safety and escape of his men above glory or honor because the strike team's true purpose is to create chaos and destroy the enemy's supply lines. Vlad firmly nods, confirms the orders, and promises that he will always remember this important strategy. Looking at the bruised and unlikely group of 3 leaders standing before him, Joseph simply says that it is good. He announces that the highly specialized strike team will consist of exactly 21 men. He then informs them that they leave for enemy territory tomorrow at dawn, and with a respectful nod, he sincerely wishes them good luck on their dangerous mission.